Hello, my name is Jay Hibbard, and I'm Senior Vice President of Sales, Marketing, and Communications for Covenant Retirement Communities. I'd like to welcome you to Covenant Life Today, a brand new program designed to keep you informed about all the wonderful happenings within Covenant Retirement Communities. We've created Covenant Life Today to share some of the unique stories about the residents who are part of the CRC family, as well as some features about our dedicated and passionate staff members. In addition, Covenant Life Today will feature updates and insights from the CRC leadership directly to you. In this first edition, we will feature an interview with our CEO, Terry Cunliffe, some highlights of some of the great stories of our residents shared in the media this year, and a story about the recent staff response to Hurricane Irma in Florida. Thanks for joining us.
There's no better way to hear about what's going on within Covenant Retirement Communities than to hear from our leadership. And today I'm joined by our President and CEO, Terry Cunliffe, to kind of share what's going on within the organization. About a year ago, about this time last year, we discussed with the residents a pretty audacious plan about strategic growth for Covenant Retirement Communities. Probably a good time to kind of give everybody an update on what's going on with all those initiatives and just what's happening on all those fronts.
So I would say this year we've really focused on helping people understand what is around optimization, what's around service, and what does growth really mean. And so those are the three pillars of our strategic plan. Just a reminder for people, optimization is really looking at something and taking it and making it as efficient as possible. So there's two different ways that we can approach optimization, and we've really focused on that in our organization. One is to really maximize revenues, and the other is to look at places that we're spending money that really are not bringing that return on investment back to us, and so repositioning that.
Growth was also a pretty big initiative in that strategic plan. What are some of the exciting things happening on the growth front?
Wow, growth is a key, and the big focus right now in terms of growth is building out our own communities. So we have several communities that have the ability to add residential units, which then also adds to the financial strength of that community. We also have some communities that don't have the level of amenities that they should have, so bringing that into our communities too. A lot of our growth initiative is focused on just our financial ability to assume additional debt and be able to offset additional debt with additional revenue. So we've been really building that infrastructure this last year, and I think you'll see a lot of things going on in 2018 as we start to build out.
So one of the trends in senior living today is affiliations and acquisitions. Do you ever see that as part of a plan that Covenant would participate with?
Absolutely. In fact, that is one of our growth strategies, is to look at mission compatible, either single site or small systems that would be a good fit for Covenant Retirement Communities and bring some financial benefit to the organization, while we could bring the oversight and the strength of our organization to them as well. I will say the other area that we've started to explore, and there are some churches and other areas around the country, is just really committed to our economic diversity.
So a lot of our residents see many things around the campus talking about Inspired to Serve. It's become part of how we speak and hopefully how we act. How about some updates on what's going on with Inspired to Serve and service as a distinctive?
So I think, first of all, that service distinctive is focused on, we want to be known for service. And so our first entree into that was Inspired to Serve, our customer service framework. We've made incredible progress, all the way from Inspired to Serve awards, where we have 9 employees in our organization that have been identified as exceptional service, and then recognition of those great service employees and things that employees do through the Inspired to Serve website.
Are there other service initiatives that Covenant's focusing on right now to enhance the lives of our residents?
So in our strategic plan, we have other service areas that we are wanting to build out so that we really can make that resident experience great every single day. And one of them is CITO, and we're continuing to build out CITO, and that's our memory support program. Life Connect is a significant area. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But then again, dining. We want dining to be a distinctive in our organization.
So you mentioned Life Connect. It's a nice segue into really talking about the commitment going forward to really relaunching that program and enhancing that. So why don't you give the residents some update on where we're headed in the next year? Some exciting things I know they're on the horizon.
So I'm just, before I go forward, I'm going to just go backwards a little bit in terms of what is Life Connect? And I think that as we look at Life Connect, it is really core to our organization, in that it is our whole person, resident-directed wellness philosophy, wellness model. And the whole idea of Life Connect was to help residents integrate into their new environment as they move into a community, and then stay integrated throughout their entire life on that campus, regardless of where they live on the campus. And so I am super excited. We have identified a new leader for the central office. Her name is Tierney. She just has joined us, so she's just getting her feet wet right now. But what is so amazing about Tierney is that not only is she a personal trainer, she's a certified wellness coach, and in the spirit of whole person wellness, she also is educated in spiritual direction. So as we look at whole person wellness, it's way more than just the physical wellness. It's emotional and spiritual and vocational and all those dimensions.
If you were to think of any other initiatives that you'd like to take a moment just to talk to our residents about, that would give you a chance to just communicate with them, what would they be right now?
So I think a couple of other areas that are important to me and to our residents, I know, one of them being benevolent care. And so about a year ago, we launched on a fairly significant benevolent care campaign. It's been a little bit slow this first year, and but it is a major area of focus for 2018. We have just engaged a fundraising consultant who's really going to help us understand the philosophy, that spirit of philanthropy within Covenant Retirement Communities, and then exploring how we can reach beyond our walls to really support benevolent care.
As you look at this next year, where do you see your focus being on the one thing that you're really trying to influence that ultimately will enhance the lives of our residents?
Looking back to when I first started in this role in June of 2015, one of the areas that I am concerned about is the sustainability of our Christian mission. And I feel really strong that the Christian mission can only be sustained through building leaders from within. And that people who believe in the ministry, that believe in the covenant heritage that we have. And so I think as we look at 2018, we have made a financial commitment to make sure that we start to build the leadership bench, both at the campus and at the central office. And so over this next year, we are committed to filling all of the open associate executive director positions. That will do two things. It does help us to build a bench in the event that we have executive director turnover, but it will also bring an additional level of service and connection to the residents with administration. We've been doing similarly of that to the central office, and so as we look at 2018, we are bringing in a leadership development individual who will really start to build out how do we build leaders, and then how do we build content and training for staff at all levels to be able to grow their careers within Covenant Retirement Communities.
This program is a great way to communicate across all communities at one time, and I know that it never replaces face-to-face, and that's always a challenge to be in 12 places in a month's time or any other time frame. But as you look at this next year, what are some of your plans for getting face-to-face with some of our residents?
Well, I'll never ever give up an opportunity to be face to face. 7 hugs a day. That you don't get those out of the central office. You get those at the campus. But I will say I haven't really been intentional about getting out to campuses for a couple of days for the opportunity of meeting in small groups, one-on-ones with residents and staff. And this time I'm going to integrate some family groups to just get an understanding of their experience within Covenant Retirement Communities. So in 2018, I will schedule myself to spend a couple of days on every campus and just building out that schedule now. So looking forward to spending some time just focused on campuses this year.
Well, it's great, Terry. Thanks for joining us for this first program. We're excited about what it'll become as we look forward and give you an opportunity to communicate with our residents on a more frequent basis than you may be able to do face-to-face.
It's great. Thanks, Jay.
It's no secret that residents at the CRC communities live very active lives. Many of our residents are giving back to their communities at large through volunteering opportunities and participating in many different exciting adventures. It's great when we get a chance to share these stories through different media outlets, as this coverage allows CRC to tell the story of the residents and really give a glimpse of the kinds of residents who live at our communities. While we don't have time today to share all of the stories that were covered this year, here are just a few highlights that were featured.
Giving. It's a big part of the generosity of our residents and CRC. Residents in Turlock were featured in the newspaper with their Pedal to End Alzheimer's fundraiser. They hopped on their cybercycles to pedal more than 335 miles and raised $1,200. Covenant Village of Northbrook residents were in the limelight for their spirit of giving. Their annual Holly Fair helps local service agencies. The resident committee's photo featured the many committed residents who last year raised more than $8,500. CRC's Employee Dependent Scholarship Program was featured in an online publication in Westminster, Colorado. How exciting to see the daughter of one of Covenant Village of Colorado's employees being recognized for receiving a $1,400 college scholarship. Many of our CRC community residents have had parents that lived in communities. One such family was featured from Covenant Village of Cromwell. The Andersons held a huge family reunion and was featured in a story that reveals the Andersons have been part of Covenant Village of Cromwell since its early beginnings in 1906. Who doesn't love looking at classic cars? Windsor Park resident Don Henry certainly does. His passion for the classics led to a car show at the community that was featured in a local paper in suburban Chicago. That event drew quite a crowd of classic car enthusiasts. And finally, love was in the air at several CRC communities. Residents at Covenant Village of Florida were featured in the local paper for their intergenerational Valentine's Day with local high school students. The Samarkand celebrated weddings and anniversaries and were featured in an online article with a great photo of two couples from their community. And Fox 5 News aired a segment on 6 couples at Mount Miguel Covenant Village renewing their wedding vows in a huge ceremony with family and friends.
Not only do we have great residents, but we have great employees who demonstrate the Inspired to Serve philosophy every day. As Hurricane Irma was bearing down on Florida just a few months ago, we witnessed that commitment firsthand from both the staff at Covenant Village of Florida and support from the central office team. Join me in hearing directly from some of the team who worked together to keep the residents safe during this recent hurricane.
The radar image of Hurricane Irma in the Atlantic Ocean was a very telling image. This was going to be a very powerful storm, and projections of its path made it very clear that Covenant Village of Florida could be greatly impacted.
So how do we apply the common purpose of creating joy and peace of mind in the event of a hurricane? And so we activated our emergency response plan, and our emergency response plan is very comprehensive, and it really covers potentially every emergency that could occur.
That emergency response plan meant pulling a team together to ensure the community was ready to handle the storm. It also included a team from central office in Skokie providing support along the way. Twice-a-day meetings ensuring there was ample food and water, fuel for generators, medicines, communications tools, and making sure there was staff in place throughout the storm to help the residents and their family members know they'll be safe.
The central office also prepared for the initiation of taking over the phone service for the campus. So as the hurricane got closer, we took all phone calls, and our command post handled all the communication for calls coming in, which allowed the campus to focus on their efforts in preparation with all the residents.
Hurricane Irma actually veered to the west, and the impact wasn't as severe as it could have been. Nonetheless, the command posts were manned 24 hours a day, hurricane shutters were closed, food was prepared, and staff and residents were ready to ride out the storm.
And so for residents ahead of time, the resident life director worked with the hospitality ambassadors on each floor of our buildings, and they put together an entire packet for activities that the residents themselves could lead other residents in their building and on their floor to actually create social events and to make it fun.
The preparation was perfect, so it allowed the campus to have that breathing spot at the end of the day, hours before the hurricane, to sit down and go, we're ready.
You know, in residential, we had the dining team that stayed in community, and they were putting together the hurricane meals. We had the facilities team, both maintenance, housekeeping, in each building, assigned to each building, and then in particular in our assisted living community and then skilled nursing community, we staffed so that the care staff would be working 12-hour shifts, but they would only work either days or nights.
The good news is that the storm left very little damage to the campus. The roofs held up and only a few branches and trees were downed. Perhaps the biggest impact of all, a tremendous display of caring individuals ready to help in a time of potential disaster.
So it's incredible as you watch our staff in the organization and see the care and concern of this campus in crisis mode. Everyone stepped up. I had people raising their hands across the organization saying, just ask. If you need something, I'm willing to step in.
Recovery teams, both locally at Covenant Village of Florida and from across the country, came in after the storm to relieve those who stayed during Irma's fury. Operations got back to normal as quickly as possible.
The power of being a whole organization, coast to coast, knowing there's resources available, just has to give all of us peace of mind knowing that we're going to navigate this together.
And I think, you know, at the end of the day, it really reflected the dynamic spirit that is in every one of our communities that really reflects the life of our community. And maybe Hurricane Irma just gave us the opportunity and a bigger reason to do what we do every day anyway.
That same scenario played out recently with the response to the fires in Southern California, as we saw the Samarkand come together with the central office team to make sure that residents were safe and family members were informed. Well, that's it for our first edition of Covenant Life Today, and we hope you enjoyed it. We'll be bringing you these programs each quarter throughout the year with more stories and information that we hope you'll find interesting and valuable. As you saw and heard today, Covenant Retirement Communities is really all about the people who live and work in our communities. You are all part of Covenant Life Today and what makes our communities great. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, God bless.